All right, let's get ready for this review. Oh no! Oh no! You think you're gonna target me? You think you're gonna target me? You want to test me and see what kind of warrior I am? Let's go, man! Let's go! Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my spoiler talk review for Predator 2. I've never seen these Predator movies. I've seen AVP 1 and 2, and I only like 1. So I've seen those movies, but I haven't seen any of the, original Predator movies. And with The Predator coming out, I thought, that's it. This is it. This is the opportunity to go back and watch these movies. So, on my channel right now, my theological analysis for 1987's Predator starring Arnold Schwarzenegger is up and posted, and it's epic. I had a blast putting that theological analysis together. I had a blast watching that movie. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger 80s and 90s action films. I freaking love them, and I freaking love Predator. I think I'd give that movie an A-. In fact, I bought it. I have the digital copy right now. I love that movie. I had so much fun with it. So that kind of set the bar for Predator 2. So my first time watching Predator 2, yeah, it definitely fell below the bar. It did. But I don't hate the movie. I thought it was fun, and I thought it was entertaining. And it's hard because sequels are so difficult to do. Like, you have The Matrix, and what makes it so brilliant is everything is new. It's an introduction to that world. It's an introduction to that universe. It's an introduction to how things work. Then you get to the sequel, well, you've already had those introductions. So nothing in here is now new anymore, so you gotta find something new to do. And I feel like that's the deal with The Predator. You've already met the Predator. In the movie, the first one, it's all so mysterious as you're meeting him for the first time. You're kind of getting a rough outline of the Predator's code of honor.
Don't! Leave it! He didn't kill you because you weren't armed. No sport.
And so as you're learning these rules and diving into this lore, it's kind of fascinating because it's brand new and it's mysterious, and you get into Predator 2 and that's not so much. So it's kind of smart that they changed the environment. Instead of a jungle, it is now Los Angeles. It's downtown Los Angeles. And we can all relate to a downtown setting. And instead of the Predator going up against special forces like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers, who can't shake hands when they meet, no, they arm wrestle shake hands so they can show off their biceps that are larger than my flippin' head. So now it's these normal everyday guys that go up against the Predator. However, I feel like right off the bat, they did a really good job of showing us why the Predator was targeting Danny Glover as like that ultimate warrior that he wanted to fight. Because this takes place during that time in the 90s with all the Los Angeles gang wars and stuff like that. And so this kind of futuristic look of that, of it getting to like this extreme level. You have Danny Glover hanging outside of his car, charging full speed into the fight. So you have everybody else kind of ducking and hiding and trying to, get around. No, Danny Glover just charges right in, and the Predator takes note of that. So they do a good job, like, showing you his attitude in this movie, showing you he's the guy that will not hide from a fight, but he will run straight towards the fight. So they kind of do a good job right off the bat establishing what's different about Danny Glover than anybody else and why the Predator would want to target him as this warrior. And so they did a really good job establishing that. And, Los Angeles going through this massive heat wave with all this open in the street gang violence going on. So the heat and the violence attracts the Predator and brings the Predator to Los Angeles looking for those warriors to fight, looking for those trophies and those skulls to claim and adorn itself with and be like, yeah, look at me. I thought like all of that was well done. It was also smart that it took place in 1997. The movie was made in 1990 and it took place 7 years in the future. And I said to myself, like, as soon as I saw the date, it's like, well, what's the point in making this take place in the future? And they did a really good job of that because the Predator is in 1987, so in the movie universe, they let an entire decade pass. And in the passing of that decade, you have this task force that in this film is led by Gary Busey playing this guy, Peter Keyes. Gary Busey, of all people, it was hilarious to see a much younger Gary Busey, but just as crazy Gary Busey, leading this incredibly crazy task force to go up against this predator. But what was smart about the 10-year difference thing was, now you have time for this task force not just to exist, but to have gathered information, which deepens the mythology of the Predator, because through this task force we learned that Arnold Schwarzenegger was not the first warrior the Predator has come up against, that the Predators have been coming to Earth and finding warriors and going up against them for quite some time. And so it was kind of interesting to kind of dig into that, and then to understand what they want, because I think they would want what any government agency would want. If aliens really were coming to Earth, they're going to want to capture an alien, learn about that alien, and dissect its technology and, reverse engineer it and use it. So, of course, like, that's what they want.
This is between me and him.
Funny thing, though, is it really is a stereotypical cop movie to the point that I was just waiting for Mel Gibson to show up and be Danny Glover's partner,
Raj, meet your new partner.
I'm too old for this stuff. Riggs! I'm getting too old for this stuff. Like, I was really expecting that line in there at any given time. I was waiting for Mel Gibson to join him. I mean, it had every stereotypical thing to the point where Danny Glover is sitting behind the desk, and there's his captain yelling at him like, you're crazy, you break the rules, you don't obey, you do this and you do that. I mean, it was this stereotypical, like, reprimand that you would get in a 90s cop movie of a cop who really is the true hero of the police force and will do whatever it takes to get the job done. Like, it was almost laughable how stereotypical of a 90s cop movie it was. And so, yeah, I was really expecting that they had taken the Lethal Weapon universe and the Predator universe and were about to combine them together. I was just waiting for Mel Gibson at any time to show up. In fact, I was a little disappointed that he didn't. Bill Paxton was a fun character, though. He was... the first chunk that he was in the movie, I couldn't stand him. Like, I just thought he was too obnoxious. And at any minute, I was waiting for him to go, game over, man!
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
He was just so obnoxious until the train scene. The train massacre where Bill Paxton, like, stands up to the Predator. I did not want him to die there. That whole scene was so good, by the way. The strobe effect, as they're on the train and you can never really fully see what's going on, but you can see the Predator is just taking out a lot of people because, everybody was carrying because it was a violent day and age. So he's down there like, he's just collecting, man. He's just taking people out left and right. And finally, you have Bill Paxton, like, shooting at him. He runs out of bullets. He throws a freaking golf ball at him, and then he gets killed. In fact, his whole skull and spine gets ripped out of his dead body. In fact, I was kind of glad that happened because I figured he was a worthy adversary of the Predator. So, yeah, he deserved to have his skull and spine taken and worn by the Predator as a trophy. Because after all that annoying, obnoxious stuff from him, here we watched him, like, do this awesome fight to the end, saving so many people. And so that scene alone kind of won his character over to me, where he annoyed me in the beginning, but I could see he had a good heart. He was just irritating. And now all of a sudden, because of his sacrifice, I'm like, oh man, he was a good guy. Hey, consider that a badge of honor that now your dead skull is being worn by a Predator as a trophy. I had somebody ask me if I was going to do a theological analysis for Predator 2, and I probably won't because, like, in terms of, like, the theological analysis, there's just so much it has in common with the first movie, so that, to me, it just doesn't feel like there's too much new stuff to explore, other than it's kind of an interesting plot line, right? That there's a massive heat wave in Los Angeles, so heat, that's number one, but it was also the human choice of the violence and the open war happening on the streets that invited in an enemy to bring about worse destruction. So, to me, that's kind of an interesting message in the film, being careful of what we invite in. But by far and away for me, the most interesting part of this movie was probably when Danny Glover is inside the Predator ship. And it's my most favorite part for two reasons. Reason number one, the xenomorph skull. Like, as he's looking at the trophies on the wall that this Predator has, one of the trophies is the skull of a xenomorph. And I loved it, combining the universes. Oh! How I wanted the Alien movies to acknowledge the existence of the first AVP, but ignore the existence of the second AVP. To see the evidence right there in Predator 2 that the Xenomorphs and the Predators have battled it out, and this Predator has the skull of a Xenomorph as its trophy. I was like, yeah! That's freaking awesome, man. I freaking loved that. So I thought that was really cool. But the other thing was seeing the multiple Predators and seeing, like, once Danny Glover defeated the Predator he'd been fighting throughout the movie, the other Predators did not kill him out of vengeance, but gave him a trophy for being a great warrior and defeating one of their own. So it's kind of cool to get into a look at their behavior, and then the trophy being that really old gun from the 1700s. It's like, good gosh. These guys have been around for a long freaking time. In the end, I think I'm giving this movie a C+, because to me, it was highly entertaining and enjoyable, and the real positive was deepening the lore of the Predators. Otherwise, I don't know, it didn't hold the same epic quality that the first one had. And again, it's not always fair, because the first one, it was all new. It was the introduction of the Predator, the introduction of that universe, and the whole mystery of it, and that all added to the epicness of it. And I give credit where credit is due, that they really did try to work something different with this movie and dig into the lore in a different way in this movie. So I definitely give them credit for it, but still in the end, it just did not hold with it the same quality of epicness that the first one held, but still entertaining with a lot of good action and some good, Predator lore building. So what did you think of Predator 2? Love it? Hate it? Let's talk about it in the comments. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button, become a Durbanian, and hit the bell by the subscribe button so you're notified the next time I do a theological analysis, movie review, ranking video, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.